Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Motivational Monday. My name is Kira. I am your host, and that was Drunk on Myself by Anise as our opening song, which I love any songs that have to do with self-love. I feel like a whole month focus on women's well-being, which is what we're doing right now. A lot of it is meant to focus on self-love. And today's conversation is all about how to wake up our intuition and our inner guidance. So I felt like the way that my journey has worked with my intuition, my own inner guidance, is that the more that I've loved myself has equated to the ability to love myself. So I'm curious, before we even get started with today's conversation, I would like to know, when was the last time that you told yourself you love yourself? Drop it in the chat, let us know. I conveniently do it every day and multiple times a day, but that's just because I've had mentors who have had to drill it into me over and over and over and over about the fact that the baseline for anything that we do in this lifetime starts with self-love. And the reason why is because if we love ourselves, then we're able to give ourselves what we need, ask for what we need, support ourselves. And if we don't, that's usually where people pleasing comes in, lack of boundaries, lack of connection, lack of communication, lack of deep relationships, which are all things that are incredibly important for anyone's well-being. It doesn't matter if you are a male or a female. And we've got some people who say they can't remember a few days ago. A couple of people are like, this morning, I try to do it daily. And someone said right now, which I think is one of my favorite answers out of all of those answers, because even if you've never told yourself that you love yourself, you can start today. You can grow, you can show up, you can put in the work, and you can start doing what you need to do to show up for yourself and create a life that you love and not a life that you don't, right? So, I'm very excited for today's conversation. We are going to be talking all about our intuition and our inner guidance. And I'm curious for those of you who are here, drop 111 in the chat if you have a connection to your intuition and inner guidance. And drop 222 in the chat if you either don't or you don't know what that is. And we're going to be on all different layers of the spectrum, which is perfect and exactly how it's meant to be. Okay, lots of doubt with the intuition. So a lot of you are saying that you do, which is great. Some of you are saying that there's lots of doubt with our intuition. So it's really interesting when we start to dive into our intuition. Some of you are just now maybe starting to learn what your intuition is. So for me, my intuition is that little voice inside of me that is guiding me. And it's really interesting because it doesn't always show up as like an actual voice. Some of us do receive it as a voice in our head that says, do this or don't do that. Or if we're presented with a selection of options where we have the ability to choose between those options. And there's usually one that right away we're like, oh, that one. Your intuition is that gut feeling. It is that immediate connection inside of yourself with that intuition and that inner guidance that lives inside of you. Now, the problem that we see in the society that we live in is we are a very heady, very mental society. Now, what that means is that instead of listening to that gut a lot of the times, we will get that immediate reaction. And instead of listening to that yes or no or whatever that gut reaction was, we will all of a sudden listen to our mind. We'll start creating all of these reasons and all of these scenarios in our mind why we can't do it or why we should do it or why we should wait until later or whatever the scenarios are. We stop ourselves from listening to that inner guidance. Again, very heady society. We have this ability to override ourselves and override that inner wisdom. Now, I think before we lived in such an information society, we had a lot more connection with our inner guidance because it's all that we had. Now we have so much information that we get on information overload. And drop 333 in the chat if you can relate to that feeling of information overload. A lot of you relate to that feeling of information overload, right? Which means that Sherry said it perfectly. We're always in our heads. There's too much information, and it's not always easy to navigate and compartmentalize. Now, one of the things that I want to invite you to do as a byproduct of today's conversation is I want you to start thinking. I have to stop myself because it's less about thinking and it's more about feeling. So I want you to start feeling a little bit more through your lives, which means when you get that gut feeling, I want you to listen to it. And if it's scary to listen to it with the little things, the teeny tiny little things. Your intuition and your inner guidance is not always logical. And that's the struggle that we come into when we live in a very logical, very number, very information, very answer-oriented society, is that we lose a little bit of the flow and the fun and the joy of life that just comes from the mystery of it all. I want to know, for those of you who are on this call, how many of you really deeply, truly enjoy your lives? Drop 444 in the chat. You can drop 555 in the chat if you don't. Trust me, there are more people who don't than do. So it'll be okay if there are 555s in the chat. So some of you are 444, some of you are 555, some of you are a little bit in the middle. So if you are the type of person who maybe doesn't fully enjoy your life right now, I think you are the perfect person to start listening to your intuition. Because what I've found in my own journey of listening to my intuition, and again, I said it can for some of you it pops up as a voice, and you can drop it in the chat if you do have a relationship with your intuition. For some of you, it pops up as a physical voice telling you what to do. For some of you, it pops up as this gut feeling. For some of you, it pops up as you ask this question today, and then 4 hours later, the question all automatically arrives. Or you were thinking about something, and then all of a sudden it's there. But then we doubt ourselves. And for those of you who are living lives that you don't fully enjoy, I'm inviting you to start listening and paying attention to that feeling a little bit more. Because what happens with that is when you're listening to that feeling, you're able to live a life that you are meant to live. It doesn't mean that it's always logical. If I lived my life only on a logical basis, I would be in a loony house. There's there's the truth that yes, we live a very earthly human existence, and we do have a whole spiritual month happening in July that we'll be talking about spiritual growth. But then there also is the magic of this human experience. And we don't always have to be like super spiritual people to understand that there's magic. I don't know if every one of you agree with me, but I think it's pure magic that women can create life in their bodies. That does not make logical sense to me. That pure magic. So if you need a reminder that magic exists, pure magic, women can create life in their bodies. What? So we have to balance, right? And if we don't have that connection to our intuition and to parts of us that are guiding us on a deeper path, then what's happening is we're super disconnected. And we have our beautiful guide, Tatiana, here, which I'm so excited. And Tatiana is one of our guides with Life Guides. And today's conversation is all about intuition and inner guidance. Tatiana guides individuals through life's most challenging transitions, transforming them from pain into purpose, and empowering them to find strength, healing, and renewal through holistic practices and compassionate support. Welcome, Tatiana. We've been talking a little bit about intuition, living lives that we don't fully enjoy, and really if we have that connection to it or if we don't. So, hi, welcome. We would love a little bit of an introduction to who you are.
Hello, everyone. A little bit about myself. I work with the Life Guides for like a year, and one of my purpose and my passion is to support women into reawaken their body, their voice, to peel the layers of whatever is behind, so you can live in your fullest potential and recognize that how much potential, how much power you have.
So beautiful. So, with that, I gave my own definition to intuition and inner guidance, but do you want to tell us a little bit more about what that looks like to you or what you've seen with some of the clients that you've worked with?
Intuition And inner guidance, I think, is something that is been hidden from us for such a long, because we live in a world that is all about production and getting things done and very masculine. But once we start tapping into our intuition, it's a very subtle. I think for everybody it's different. It's a subtle voice, a subtle feeling that you just know that that's the right thing for you to do or to don't do. So it's something that everybody has, intuition.
It is. I've learned over my lifetime that the more that I listen, the more that I have opportunities to receive. So for some of you who maybe are just getting started on your journey of trusting that inner gut feeling, just start listening to it. Start seeing how your life starts to unfold. And what you'll see is that the more you listen, the more you'll get opportunities to pay attention. And now for me in my life, it shows up as little things. If the weather outside doesn't look like it's supposed to rain, and the forecast doesn't say it's supposed to rain, but I look at my rain jacket and it's this teeny tiny little voice that says, "Take me." And I don't take it. Usually 3 hours later, I'm like, oh, I should have grabbed that. And it's little things. And then it also pops up in bigger layers in life. And here are a couple of statistics regarding women that I feel is really important because I feel like we override our intuition and listen to our minds so much more than we absolutely should. 50% of women struggle setting boundaries. If you listen to your intuition, you probably would have never had that person in your life to begin with, or you would have said no the first time that something happened. 55% of women take on too much work, leading to high rates of burnout. If you listen to your intuition, you would probably be doing just enough work or maybe getting paid more for the work that you do. 67% of women admit to silencing their true feelings in order to avoid conflict or abandonment. 80% of women struggle with low self-esteem, and 84% of women struggle with body dissatisfaction. And those statistics make me so sad because the lowest statistic was half of us. The highest statistic was almost all of us. And we're just living opposite of how we're supposed to. So, Tatiana, what are some of those symptoms that you see that show up when people aren't listening to their bodies? And obviously, we're seeing that these statistics are showing that this is the truth, but I want to know what those symptoms look like.
Well, I think there's, it's so clear the symptoms that some of us, some of women are trying to cope with it or to fix it with a pill, but that can be anxiety, depression, autoimmune diseases that are so popular right now. It's all ourselves are fighting with our own body, with our own intuition, our own guidance, exhaustion, like being in a work that you just overworking. So yeah, that's some of the symptoms like nerve system dysregulation. We just are in a fight. We're fighting against ourselves.
It's really hard to be able to live in a society that really wasn't created for women. We live in a male driven society, and it's even based on the science. If you look at science, most of the scientific experiments that have talked about health and the way that we should be living have always been done on young males, which means that this science is not made for us in the way that our bodies work. So once we realize that, obviously there's a lot wrong with the world. There's also a lot right with the world, and we're not here to have that conversation, but we are here to talk about how do we interact with the world that we live in as women. And we have to unlearn how to be so masculine and how to work like a man. So I have friends even now to this day. We've got a friend group. About half of us, when we're sick, we call out. We don't show up to work, we rest, we reset, and we take our time. The other half of my friend group, they go to work regardless. They feel guilty if they don't show up. And these are the things that I've had to learn myself to live more of a fulfilled life and to listen to more of my intuition because your intuition lives in your body. It doesn't live in your mind. If your body is telling you that you're not well, listen to it. If your body is telling you that you're tired, listen to it. The more that we override our body's natural connection and
Yeah.
voice that's paying attention to it or that's leading us, the more that we're not going to feel well. Tatiana talked about autoimmune diseases. 80% of people who have autoimmune diseases are women because we push ourselves beyond
And that's
our,
fighting with our own body.
exactly.
We're
We're fighting.
fighting to ourselves. you know. So it's so crazy. It's just right there. Last night I was sitting here meditating, and I'm saying like, we're in a transition as humanity to switch from our mind to our body, to our heart, so we can bring that into our voice, into what we're manifesting, we're creating in our life. And once we experiment that little bit of those miracles, like you say, Kira, that I'm gonna bring my rain jacket and those little things, then it goes bigger and bigger. I'm not gonna take that job because my body feels tense just thinking about being there. And it's the fear too. I'm not gonna get the job that I want. I'm not gonna get the relationship that I want. So I have to take this relationship or this job. And in reality, that's the mind. When we start listening to what our minds are telling us, and what is our mind? That's society. We've been trained, even ancestral patterns, because the woman behind us, that's the way they had to live. But we are in a moment that we have to overcome all of those ancestral patterns, all the society programming. And it has, it takes a lot of vulnerability and strength to do it. But once we get a little bit of that, it's like, yes, I am on the right path. I can create the life that I want to.
How many of you drop 777 in the chat if you feel like you either have settled in your life or you regularly settle in your life? Because that's what I heard from you, Tatiana. I'm not going to get the job that I want. I need to take this. I'm not going to get the relationship that I want. I might as well settle for this. Ooh, the 777s are flowing through. We are not meant to settle. Even when I was looking for my life guides job, my best friend was also on the job market and he was applying to maybe like 15 jobs a day for months. And I was very clear that I was not going to settle. I wanted creative freedom. I wanted to work with a company that helped people. I wanted to work with a growing company. I wanted to work with a company that was making a difference in the world and that cared about people. And I think I applied to 3 jobs and I ended up calling my network, finding someone who knew about this position, and I ended up here. And it's because I didn't settle. And that this is where the conversation of self-love really starts to play a role. Because when you realize what your worth and what your value is, you don't need to settle. And that's self-love and self-confidence, right? So, Tatiana, how do we begin to change all of this? How do we begin to change this settling and this dissatisfaction and this disassociation that we have in regards to our bodies and our intuition and our inner guidance and live more of a guided, fruitful life?
I think one of the first things is recognize that we're not living our full potential and we're not happy, and say it's okay, without judgment to anybody. Bringing awareness of are the things that are not working for us. And then planning. It's important to plan. Like here, I just say, I'm going to apply for this job. It's similar to what I did. I'm going to plan this and I'm going to focus my mind. I'm going to see what is blocking me to, because that's when the emotional part comes. That's when I say, oh, my grandma did this, or my neighbor did this, or my father, I learned it from my family. So it's bringing awareness, making a plan, trusting, and get the support that you need, whether it's a life guide, a guide to talk, psychologist, taking a class of dancing, moving your body, tapping into those, because I say you heal when you tap through the body, not through the mind. Everything is in the body, is in the voice. When we tap into those blockages, we can start feeling that energy that is moving forward. So I think that's awareness, really doing the work, looking for the support and help that we need, and planning, and then start seeing how those little miracles and big miracles start happening. Because it happens. It happened to Kira, just like Kira. I manifest. I did the work to apply for this job. I had my own business. I moved to South America. And I was in a relationship. I was at some point in my life in a relationship, in a job that I hated, and I just say at some point I just gonna give up. But I was so sick. I was so depressed. And that's why it's my passion, because I know it's possible. and we're here to support each other.
I feel like we're not saying anything wildly riveting. I feel like this is relatively common sense, right? And it makes me wonder, Tatiana, I feel like we've heard ideas of this before, and we know that we're settling and we know that we're living these dissatisfied lives. But what is it that's stopping people from this moment of being like, oh, you're right. I am not living a satisfied life. I should move my body, versus why they're actually not doing it. Why that aha moment ends up fizzling out and settling into the life that they continue to live.
I think it's several things, but the first thing that I can say is fear. Fear to be vulnerable, because you have to step into a really raw space. Vulnerable, fear of not being support, fear that you're not gonna handle everything, all the layers that you gotta unfold and let go for that new version, your real you, to be revealed. So I think that's the biggest fear.
Maripaz says capitalism. Yes, I agree. Um, Fear is crippling if you allow it to be in control, Sherry says. Absolutely. So we've done some work in understanding what intuition is, how the lives that we can live, what's stopping us. Can you take us through an exercise? We have a little bit under 5 minutes before we have to close out. Can you take us through an exercise to be able to start working through some of this?
Yes. All right. So a little bit of what I do, I'm gonna make it as short as I can. So it's tapping into the voice. The voice is gonna help you to type into the body. It's vibration. So I'm gonna give you two sounds. One, I'm gonna fake it up, like I'm good. My life is good, you know. And then the second one is gonna be raw. It's gonna go into emotions and tap into my body. And the second one, I'm gonna start moving energy in my body and releasing all the things that I couldn't say. And I'm just gonna be vulnerable because I don't know where I am right now. I'm still working like everybody else. So once you start tuning your ear in my second sound, at the end, it was a little bit of I'm tired. And yes, the last couple of days I've been really busy doing stuff. And I think all of those points are really important because in your voice can come, I'm angry. I'm angry. Like, bring those energies. Why are you angry? Are you sad? Are you tired of your life? And it's a way that I found myself that is really, really being powerful to me, to tap into those parts that I'm hiding. And once I tap into it, I can bring to the surface, and those layers can just be clear.
So you're a vocal somatic coach.
Mm-hmm.
Do you suggest that people start doing what you just did? Is that something that people can do maybe at some point in their day or in the morning where they're like, oh, let me find the fake, I'm good, everything's fine voice, and then let me actually let out some sort of noise. I don't know what's going to come out, but it'll be the truth of where I'm at. Is that some work that you suggest that these
Absolutely.
people do?
Absolutely. I recommend you to be on your own, go to the up to the mountain, because you're not gonna want to bother people, and just ask yourself, what is the sound of the moment, the true sound? And without nobody around you, just be authentic and be real with yourself. Like, what is that I'm feeling? I'm feeling unsupport, or I'm feeling anger, I'm frustrated. Do no, sometimes comes the sound that I can be happy enough. Like, I can show my joy, my happiness, because sometimes we suppress even the good emotions. So yeah, recommend you totally, you can do that on your own.
when you do this work with people and you start doing the vocal somatic coaching, what transformations do you start to see in them?
In the beginning, it's very emotional. So a lot of emotions can come through, and then it has layers. Then it's like, wow, I can move energy with my voice and I can create because you can start like in your own, like singing, making sound, and start like creating everything that you want just through vibration, not even singing. This is not about singing because this is sound before any language. Because with language, as I say, when you ask somebody, how are you doing? I'm good. But we can see when somebody is not feeling good, you know. But sound doesn't lie. That's the first. When we're born and we're coming through our mother, we cry. That's a raw sound. There's no fake there. So it's about tapping into that sound, removing those blockages of the body, and you're gonna start seeing more of who you truly are and your desires, and creating your life from that point.
It sounds like this work helps us take off our masks and
Exactly.
be our true person.
Yes. And literally, like in the physical, if you think, you know, the vibration that you're creating through your voice and your entire body is moving those masks, is destroying all of that, is leaving you naked.
Thank you so much for all of this information today, Tatiana, and for showing us your vulnerability and your fake voice, but then also your real voice and where you're at and bringing us through a real life example. Kristen said in the chat that her sound right now sounds a bit scary, and that's great. That's a great place to be. I would rather your sounds be scary than be acceptable, you know? We're here for the whole range of the human experience.
You don't know what sounds can come through us. It's just unbelievable. Like the more raw sounds of deep grief and pain, and when you start tapping and you start holding a space for yourself, you're like, this is power. I can
Mm,
do this. And I
absolutely.
love seeing when women go through that part where I don't even need you, Tatiana. I can just be all of this and embody my body, be in my body, and
Mm.
own my voice and own my truth and own my future and my creation. Because nothing outside of us is going to change our reality.
Thank you for that. So, for those of you who are here on today's session or watching the recording, this is an exercise you can do. I just dropped Tatiana's Life Guides profile in the chat for you. You can schedule a call with her if you want to dive deeper into this work, start finding your voice, start finding your truth, and start finding the life that you are meant to live, not the life that everyone told you to live. We have Motivational Monday next week. We'll be talking about how to prioritize your brain health as a part of your well-being. It'll be a little bit more sciencey, but thank you all so much for being here. There's a survey that pops up at the end. We would love to have your feedback. And outside of that, we hope you have an amazing rest of your week and that this continues to play in your mind and give you inspiration as you navigate your life. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a beautiful Monday.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks.